What is up? This is MMA Renegade episode 24, recapping UFC 270. Uh Francis Nganu versus Silgan, Brennan Moreno versus Figuerado 3. All going down last night, which I am going to talk about with you guys. How are you guys doing? Welcome. For those watching on VOD, appreciate you. Those watching on live, appreciate you. Um, Definitely please leave a like, leave a share if you can. Also, subscribe if you haven't. Subscribe if you haven't. Also, try to get these subscribers up. Um, welcome. A little different setup than what I'm used to. A little different setup. Um, I am like sort of recovering from the booster shot I took yesterday. So I had to work on Monday, so I had to take the booster shot. Did not know if I was going to do a stream at all. Definitely feeling the effects of it. Definitely feeling fatigue. Definitely feeling a little bit sore. I was in a Discord last night, MMA Renegade Discord, and I was kind of telling Flat Politics, who's a friend of the show, how much I was dealing with it. So glad to be on here. Glad to be able to talk. Be back to my normal setup in February. I think we're gonna be off next week. There's no UFC cards, and then we're back in February to discuss some more UFC stuff. And hopefully by then I have some announcements to make regarding this channel and myself, and what the plan is like moving forward. Everything seems to be working its way towards what I'm looking for. All right, no, let's not waste any time. Let's get right to it. I'm like tired and shit like that, so let's get into it. So last night in Anaheim, California, UFC 270 took place in the Honda Center. We saw Francis Ngannou versus Cyril Gane, Brendan Moreno versus Davidson Figueredo. Not a lot of hype going into the fight. Not a lot of hype going into the fight, except for Francis Ngannou versus the UFC. Really, I did a prediction show. If you could just check out, which me and Elijah talked about who you out winning the fight, and I had Francis Ngannou winning the fight by knockout, I think. Um, and we were talking about how Francis Ngannou real opponent seemed like was the UFC. The promotion and the real people that follow the sport and are watching on social media or reading the news and everything like that. The real intrigue was what was going to happen if Francis Ngannou was to win. Right? It's he's on his last contract, his last fight on his contract. Uh, Francis Ngannou, has made a point to say he wants to be treated better. He wants to get better pay. He wants to be treated with more respect. The UFC, Dana White did not seem like they are willing to give that to him. So it was that kind of back and forth and that drama that really drove me to about the pay-per-view. Because even me, I was kind of like iffy about whether this fight was worth it, especially with the new price point. You have to pay for UFC. You have to pay for ESPN Plus in order to watch the UFC, which you got to pay for. So it was a lot this year is going to be interesting how they deal with pay-per-view subscriptions with ESPN Plus and then the UFC pay-per-views. But the UFC and Francis Ngannou was definitely the intrigue, and then you have Francis Cyril Gane, who I think is a interesting test for Francis Ngannou to see how has he evolved. And I look at this fight. I thought that Francis Ngannou was going to be able to walk him down. I thought that Cyril Gane's technical ability is great, but I think that I think he waits for his opponents to come in. I think getting in that close with Francis Ngannou, I think is going to be disastrous for him. Little did we know, is Francis Ngannou came into the fight with an injury. Right, he tore his MCL. I think he partially tore his ACL. MCL and ACL, partially toward the ACL, which you seen last night. You seen him wear not knee braces, but I forgot what you call it. Uh, he had knee bands on. I'm guessing to help stabilize his knee. Um, you know, um, it was interesting. It was interesting to see. And the fact that he didn't call out his fight, he wanted to fight. He wanted to get this last fight on his contract. Also, he wanted to prove the UFC wrong and that he is a valuable asset to the UFC. So that was what was interesting about before the fight, looking at how he came with an injury and now he's arguably beat one of the most technical heavyweights we've seen in the UFC in a long time, in Cyril Gane, and not in the way we thought he would be. We thought if Francis Ngannou was going to win, his only chance would be a knockout in the early part of the round. And last night showed two things. It showed the evolution of his game and what he still needs to work on. And I'll explain here. So Francis Ngannou beats Cyril Gane by unanimous decision. Nobody could have called that. Um, and the thing about Francis Ngannou last night was it seemed like everything we seen in the Stipe fight was kind of gone. When we talk about his striking, uh, in terms of his striking, it seemed like Francis Ngannou was just looking for that knockout several times in the fight. You've seen Francis Ngannou in the Stipe fight. He's throwing jabs, he's throwing feints, he's trying to catch Stipe off guard. And in this one, it felt like Francis Ngannou was reverting back to the Francis Ngannou that fought Stipe the first time, if you guys remember. Which, incidentally enough, the Francis Ngannou fight versus Stipe, uh, it is, I believe it was in. Let me see here. January 20th, 2018. So we're going on about 3 years. 3 days. Hold on. Sorry. Sorry about that. I had to he come in the house. But no, yeah, the Francis Ngannou fight with Stipe was about 3 years to the day, almost 3 years to the day. I think the Francis Ngannou versus Stipe fight one was in January 20th, and this was January 22nd. So we're similarly close, and to see the evolution between where Francis Ngannou was versus Stipe and where it was against Cyril Gane is interesting. But again, the striking aspect of it, you remember that a little bit where he's trying to look for the knockout shot. He's looking to load up a lot. Um, Francis Ngannou was not looking for to set things up with his jab or things we've seen in the second fight with Stipe, which I thought he did really well. Um, so that's the one thing I hope that Francis Ngannou could kind of work on a little bit is the boxing aspect. I think he has the knockout power. I thought in the Stipe fight he showed that he could use his jab, but he hurt Stipe with a jab. That's the one that the it wasn't an overhand or right or anything. It was a jab that sat Stipe down in the first, I think it was the first round. So that's something that I wish he goes back to a little bit, working on his boxing, working on using his jab, working on going to the body a little bit more. But I say that, but it also what we've seen out of Francis Ngannou is we've seen the evolution of his grappling. And that's something that we've never seen really of Francis Ngannou of late. We've seen a little bit in the Stipe fight, where he was able to take Stipe down. And now we've seen this, we've seen more a showing of his grappling. I thought Francis Ngannou did a fantastic job. He did a fantastic job against Cyril Gane. Even to the point of, I thought Cyril Gane in the grappling department would have an edge a little bit. Because we've seen Cyril Gane take people down before, but we've seen Francis Ngannou switch, going from the underhook going to going for a double leg. We've seen him go a wizard trip. We even seen Francis Ngannou. There's a part in a fight, I think the fifth round. You guys can tell me if I'm wrong. Um, Cyril Gane had took Francis Ngannou down to the ground, and then Francis Ngannou off his back, which you would think Francis Ngannou on his back. That's it. That's pretty much it. Fifth round, especially after a grueling fight, he goes for a sweep. He sweeps Cyril Gane. He sweeps Cyril Gane and gets right in top position, which I thought was impressive. Uh, you have to look at where Francis Ngannou was 3 years ago when he fought Stipe in January till now, 3 years later, uh, you know, being able to defend the takedowns, being able to sweep off his back, which is impressive, especially in the fifth round where it's been a grueling fight, and somebody that carries so much muscle and muscle mass, being able to go 5 rounds was impressive. It's one of those things where for Francis Ngannou, the heart of a champion also, right? We've seen Francis Ngannou deal with adversity in the first 2 rounds where Francis Ngannou is, not being able to land anything. He's throwing overhand rights. He looks tired. He's breathing out. He's breathing heavy. And then we see Francis Ngannou in the third, fourth, and fifth round take over and show the championship heart. A la who he trains with and who he has a great admiration for, Kamaru Usman. Having Kamaru Usman in that corner and being able to take inspiration from him and show that championship heart in a 5 round fight. That is what's very interesting is to see as well. You know, for Sarah Gon, I guess there are certain things that I was questioning. Like, instead of fighting the hands, he went for Kimura against Francis Ngannou against the cage. Which led to him getting taken down. There was a moment where he's in top position and Cyril Gane goes for a leg lock in top position, which was confusing. If Cyril Gane stays on top of Francis Ngannou for that fifth round, he wins the fight. But he went for a leg lock, and that was that. Also worth noting, did you guys notice the coaching? The coaching as well? Like the comparison between Extreme Couture and MMA Factory, I think is Cyril Gane. Just like in that fifth round, you see Extreme Couture talking to Francis Ngannou, giving him instructions, helping him out, coaching him, telling him what he could work on, stuff like that. And it seemed like the MMA Factory, from rounds 4 and 5, they seemed frantic. They seemed like they didn't really give Cyril Gane help per se, like as to what he can do. But we're just telling him, you got to win this fight, you got to win this fight, you got to win this fight, and not really telling him like how to adjust in the fight. Well, I thought that was very interesting to see the coaching difference. And if you go by this whole storyline of their former training partners, which they're not really, you just see the difference in where, MMA Factory and Extreme Tour, just how they're approaching the fighter and even a little bit of inexperience on MMA Factory's part in terms of just how to coach a fighter in these later part of our rounds in a championship fight, um, which I thought was interesting. Uh, and so now, we have Francis Ngannou who beats Cyril Gane, and I hope you guys noticed this as well. Dana White did not give Francis Ngannou the title. McMahon gave Francis Ngannou the title afterwards, which is very telling. What is also telling is Dana White was not at the press conference, the post conference after the fight as well, which is also telling. Um, that relationship is not fixed. It seems like, and then we know that Francis Ngannou has a torn ACL, MCL. It seems like it's going to get more and more messier in the coming months. Francis Ngannou is not on a UFC contract. He is the UFC champion. I believe his contract does get extended. However, with a torn ACL and MCL, partial torn ACL and MCL, it does seem like Francis Ngannou is not going to be able to defend that title to at least to the later part of the year. And that's when we get to what's next. And I think what's next is going to be a interim title fight, or they may just strip him of the title. They may just strip him of the title and be either done with Francis Ngannou or just strip him of the title and try to negotiate him coming back and trying to lowball him. That's what I can see happening. Um, and I think if you gotta look at it, gotta look at how it's being played out. I think it's very likely you could see a John Jones coming up to heavyweight against Stipe Miocic, right? You got Stipe Miocic, former heavyweight champion that didn't get his rematch, right? And then you have John Jones, who is coming to heavyweight, who's I think was going to get a title fight anyway in the first place. And now you have the storyline where you got the former champion Stipe Miocic, you have John Jones, the fight they were looking to make anyway. And I think it's also a very interesting fight for two reasons. One, I think Stipe is a better boxer than Francis Ngannou, right? And I think He has some grappling experience as well. John Jones, his first fight at heavyweight, how's he deal with the punching power at heavyweight? I think for John Jones, a Steve Miocic fight is a lot better matchup wise for your first fight at heavyweight. Getting to used to that power, getting used to somebody who you know has is a big heavyweight, but is somewhat manageable, especially as we've seen Stipe's last fight. Um, we've seen how Stipe did handle DC as well, so that would think give John just a little bit more confidence going into the fight. And I think that's a good fight for him to start at heavyweight, then going straight to Francis Ngannou. Um, so I think that's the next step. And if I'm being honest, I see that fight being made probably in that international fight week card in July. I think that lines up pretty well with because we already have the slate of fights going forward. I think John Jones versus Stipe. I could probably say right now. I think that would be a July card and either the interim title or they strip Francis Ngannou completely, and that's for the vacant UFC title. Don't be surprised. The UFC has done this type of thing before. When it comes to negotiations, the UFC will do whatever they can to be in a higher position. Uh, that's just how they do business, and frankly, that's just business in general. So definitely look out for that. Definitely look out for Jones versus Stipe, possibly in July. Have you seen it? Yeah, man. Yeah, thank you. Um, so that's that. But take that away from Francis Ngannou, man. Francis Ngannou did a great job last night showing his growth. And for Cyril Gane, man, that's his 10th fight. That's his 11th fight. He's 10-1 now. He's gonna go back to the drawing board. He's gonna get better. And we'll see where he goes from here. I would love to see how he handles his next fight or two. I think it's gonna take him at least 2 or 3 fights to get back to a title. I think with that performance, he's gonna need to work his way back, kind of like what Francis Ngannou did. So it's not the end of the road for him, but he's definitely got to work his way back to getting a tough fight. Maybe you do Curtis Blades versus Cyril Gane. A wrestler and Curtis Blades against a striker like a Cyril Gane. How does that work? That's an interesting fight. All right, now co-main event. Co-main event saw Davidson Figueroa versus Brandon Moreno for the flyweight title, the third fight in this trilogy. And Davidson Figueroa beats Brandon Moreno. I thought pretty clearly. I thought he had round 1, round 3, and round 5. That's what I think. That's what I think I have. I thought Davidson Figueroa did enough in round 1. I thought round 3, the knockdown, gave it to him. And I thought round 5, the knockdown also gave it to him as well. It was a close fight. It's interesting, right? Because this was a star-making night for Brandon Moreno. Brandon Moreno on the co-main event had a bigger pop or a bigger reaction than anybody on the card. Brandon Moreno was a huge favorite, and everybody was looking to see Brandon Moreno win. If Brandon Moreno would have came in there and did what he did in the second fight against Davidson Figueroa, he's off to the moon. Like you have your star in the flyweight division. Oh yeah, your star in the UFC. That pop and that reaction for Brandon Moreno. It really was eye opening. But as you can't. Sometimes this game is cruel. Davidson Figueredo was able to adapt, and able to get the better of Brandon Moreno in this fight. The use of leg kicks was very interesting. They trying to grapple a lot more and not really complete it, but just throwing it out there to make Brandon Moreno worry a little bit. And of course, he has the knockout power. It's always be a difference maker. What I love about this fight for Davidson Figueiredo is just how good is that Henry Cejudo, Eric, I forgot his name, Coach Eric, that team. We've seen Willie Zhang in her fight against Rose Namajunas look vastly improved, and then we're seeing with Henry Cejudo, with Davidson Figueiredo, great game plan, throwing the leg kicks, throwing out grappling or takedown attempts to make Brandon Moreno think about certain things. And then also the patience to be able to say, okay, we're not gonna rush in there and just go for broke and try to knock out Brandon Moreno. You know, because we've seen in the last couple of fights, we've seen Brandon Moreno be able to take those shots and still be there and be able to outpace Davidson Figueroa. So we've seen him a lot more laid back, a lot more subdued, and was just waiting for his moments. I think that worked well for Davidson Figueroa. Um, even the smaller things like you would see Davidson Figueroa, you see get that look in his eyes, looking he's ready to go, and then the coaching staff will tell him no, we're not, no, relax, relax, relax. That was good coaching, tremendous coaching. Um, that's something to look out for with John Jones. Again, John Jones is now training with Henry Cejudo, right? So I wonder, you know, Greg Jackson, Jackson Wink, John Jones, it seemed like he was losing his way a little bit. It seemed like he was kind of getting just stagnant. And it seems like with this Henry Cejudo camp, I think Henry Cejudo is doing a good job coaching champions, former champions or champions, and making them not not uh not like they're not like I don't think they're learning new things. I think they're tweaking what they already have, right? So Davis Figueroa already has a striking, he already has a grappling aspect. He's just tweaking it to suit the game plan of whatever he's fighting. Weili Zhang, same thing. Weili Zhang has the grappling aspect. We know that. Weili Zhang has the striking, but he's just tweaking that. And the same thing with John Jones. I think John Jones, if he was to fight a Francis Ngannou, or maybe Stipe against Stipe in July, probably. Um, I think they'll use the wrestling aspect of John Jones, but just tweak it a little bit to fit the game plan against Stipe. I think what they do is a good job of taking whatever the fighter already has and just tweaking it to whatever game plan they have for their fight. They did a great job with Brandon Moreno. For Brandon Moreno, I'm like one thing I'm surprised by is a lack of takedowns for Brandon Moreno. I thought Brandon Moreno would have went for a lot more takedowns than what he did, or gave Davis Figueroa much to think about. But I think Brandon Moreno got too confident in his striking ability. You see him, throwing feints and stuff like that. But you also see him taunting a little bit. You seen him, staying still and freezing up and showboating a little bit in the fight. Um, and I think he has that confidence in his striking. Remember, way back in the day, the thing about Brandon Moreno was that if you take him to the ground, or if you go to the ground with him, you're in danger because of how good his jiu-jitsu is, how good his grappling is, and how much of a grinder he is. Now but on the feet, you can handle him a bit. You could touch him up. Look at Sergio Pettis versus Brandon Moreno. However, in the most recent years, Brandon Moreno has gotten really good with his hands, and I think last night he kind of played too much into it, and he made it more of a standing fight than actual mixing up and doing mixed martial arts really, and mixing in these things like the grappling aspect with your boxing. Um, with his kicking too. I thought like also checking the kicks as well, checking the low kicks as well would have been difference maker to stop the Figueredo from throwing those like this. But the wrestling aspect, the grappling aspect, that to me was I thought was missing from his fight from Brandon Moreno. And ultimately, I think it cost him. I think he got too comfortable on the feet, and Davidson Figueroa is explosive. He has power for a flyweight, and he was able to knock Brandon Moreno down in the third round and in the fifth round, which swayed it to Davidson Figueroa. Um, so it was a costly fight. I think it's something he's gonna have to look back on and think, but what I could have done better. And I think for Brandon Moreno, his stock didn't go down really, but if he would have won this fight, it would have shot him up. In California, the Mexican representation that was out there, um, it would have shot him up, and we were talking about Brandon Moreno the next day, talking about how much of a star he's going to be in the UFC in this year. But alas, that's not going to happen. Davidson Figueroa becomes the second-time flyweight champion, the only two-time flyweight champion in UFC history. And now what's next? What's next for those guys? Uh, Davidson Figueredo said he wants to fight Brendan Moreno in Mexico. I think that's a great idea. Either do it in Mexico or do it in Brazil. Make it an international fight, and I think it will do huge. I think it will do huge. Um, Particularly Mexico. I think Mexico should get that fight. I think Mexico should host that fight. We haven't seen a UFC card in Mexico in a while, so that'd be interesting to see. Um, and if people like Yair Rodriguez could be on that card, uh, you know, you think of some other names that, like, if they could be on that card, I think that'll be a huge UFC pay per view in Mexico. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. Especially with that altitude. The altitude and the altitude in Mexico is a little bit different. So I wonder how both fighters, flyweights, who cut a lot of weight to make that weight class, how they deal with that extra amount of X factor in there, where cardio may be an issue, and I think that's interesting. Um, but yeah, I think that they'll run it back in Mexico, and that'll be the I think the first time we've seen a fourth fight in the UFC. I think you see a lot of four fights between two fighters, so that'll be interesting to see. Um, Other things on this card, there's not really much really to look at, to be honest with you. I'll say this: there's a couple of great performances. Michael Morales, good performance from him against Trevin Giles. Let's see what he does next. Only 22 years old. I believe he is. I believe he's like 13 and 0. I think he's like. I think yeah, he's 13 and 0. He's 22 years old and 13 and 0. That is somebody to look out for. That young, have that much experience. Uh, that's somebody to look out for against Trevin Giles, who Trevin Giles is a UFC vet. Has enough fights, maybe not have been consistent, but he has some wins over some big names, some notable names, and he went in there and beat him. Went in there, so that's something to look out for. Uh, other fights on the card, Ziad Nurmagomedov had a good performance. Love to see him be active against Cody Stamen at guillotine choke. Um, and lastly, I would say two fighters. One, Jack Mandela. I can't pronounce his name. Jack Della Maddalena. I think I said it right the second time. He wins by knockout over Pete Rodriguez. Good performance. He looked clean. Uh, his striking looks really, really good. And it's to see where he goes from next. And then Victor Henry. Victor Henry with a great performance as well. Victor Henry put on a great show and showed out in his fight against Ronnie Barcelos. Even his decision. Both of them, I think that's probably should have been fight of the night, which it wasn't. Fight of the night went to Davidson Figueroa and Brendan Moreno. I would have went to Victor Henry and Barcelos. That was a really, really good fight. Um, but yeah, it's to see what Victor Henry's he's a bantamweight. Somebody to look out for. Uh, he's 34 years old, so he's a little bit older. But his hands, his footwork, his head movement, everything. He had everything in that fight, and he's also he pushed the pace, pushed a heavy pace. I think on short notice, and was able to outlast Brosolis and win a unanimous decision. I thought it was a great performance. So those are the fighters that look out for: Said Nurmagomedov, Jack Della, Victor Henry, Michael Morales. Those are the fighters you should go back and watch. And now we get into the rating. Right, this is a part of the show where I give my rating for the card. You guys give your rating in the comment section below. Looking at this fight, I had very low expectations for this card. Fights off the card got dropped. People got injured. Um, the UFC had to scramble to make some last adjustments. And the story aspect to me, I think it was the UFC versus Francis Ngannou, which again, that's still something to look out for. It's gonna get uglier, I think. Uh, Dana White not being at the post conference, Dana White not giving him the belt at the end, definitely suspect. Definitely look out for that. But man, it delivered. It delivered an interesting card, and me kind of just like not feeling the best or whatever. I stayed up. I stayed up and watched this whole entire card. Um, and I could have easily just said, you know what, I don't want to, but no, it kept my attention the whole entire night, and I was very impressed with some of these performances, man. The Francis Ngannou one is impressive for me to see the growth of what he is 3 years ago against Stipe, now to fighting Cyril Gane, even tougher matchup, and he was able to, you know, sweep off his back. He was able to grapple, able to change his game plan up. He was able to show a heart of a champion, which we all question. Davidson Figueroa, his way of improving in his last fight and being more patient in a coaching team of Henry Cejudo and Coach Eric. Um, there's some nice prospects on this card too to look out for as well. Said Nurmagomedov is a problem. It's going to be a problem. Michael Morales is going to be a problem. Victor Henry, even though he's a little bit old, 34 years old, the bantamweight division, he's somebody to look out for who will be exciting. And there are some good performances on this card. There are some interesting aspects to look out for in this card. A little bit of drama as well. I thought every fight delivered and stayed overstayed as welcome. And again, Francis Ngannou's performance, man, like what does 3 years make? Like the change in 3 years is incredible. So look, taking everything into consideration, including the price point, because the price point is crazy. I'm gonna give it an A minus. I'm gonna give it A minus. I thought with all the things they had to deal with this card, COVID, fighters getting injured, all these things, weight cut issues. I thought that UFC 270 delivered. The first card of the year, all the pressure's on this price point that it's a new price point to start the year off. I thought the UFC delivered, and I think, dare I say, they may have over delivered on what they did. So my grade is an A minus. You guys get your letter grade in the comment section, but it's an A minus, man. It's a good card. I'm gonna go back and watch some of these fights. I'm gonna go back and watch some of these fights and just look at just how Francis Ngannou, he was able to grapple with Cyril Gane. Davidson Figueroa, his game plan, just knowing what I know now, looking back at what he did and how he set everything up. Yeah, it's just good. It's good. A minus for me. A minus for me. So we are going to be away for a little bit, a short break. The next fight card, I believe, is February 5th. Jack Hermansson versus Sean Strickland. That should be an interesting card. And yeah, I'll be back to review it, and by then I'll have a lot more information that we're gonna do moving forward. Especially, whatever deal or whatever I'm working on. So thank you guys. Thank you guys for your time. Thank you for watching on a VOD. Thank you for watching live. Appreciate you viewers who watched. Yours Soy 1916. I appreciate you. Yeah, leave a like, subscribe, share if you can, and yeah, tell me what you think. Give you a grade on this card. But signing off for now. My name is Tyrese Simon. This has been MMA Renegade episode 24.